Yo, what's going on guys, Camille here. In this video I'm going to be explaining Nilou's talents in details. She has a little bit of complicated things about her skills. She's not really a very simple character. So in this video we're just going to be explaining every single one of her talents. I'm going to put it very simply for you guys, including the passives and stuff like that. So without further ado, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let's begin. So for her auto attacks, it's just going to be normal physical auto attacks, nothing really special about them. And they're also going to scale with attack. They're not going to scale with HP like her other skills. Usually you're probably not going to be using them in this way. Alright, so now moving on to her elemental skill, which is pretty much the most complicated thing in her kit. So for Nilou's elemental skill, guys, you're gonna have to press your elemental skill and then you're gonna get 3 charges. When you press your E, your elemental skill, you're gonna gain 3 charges. You're gonna see that here. So she's gonna press the E. Now you gain 3 charges. If you see it right here, it's gonna show up like a little thing in here that indicates the charges. So yeah, as you guys can see here, you press your elemental skill, your E, boom. These are the charges. When you have 1 in here, that indicates your next attack is going to consume the first stack. When you have 2, your second attack is going to consume the second stack and stuff like that. Now, how are you going to consume these charges? There are 2 ways. Either you press your elemental skill again, or you're going to auto attack. When you auto attack, it's going to turn your auto attacks into hydro damage, and a different type of attack is going to be stronger. And when you press your elemental skill, it's also going to do a different attack. They're both pretty close in damage. So these are the 2 ways you can consume the charges. And by the way, you cannot do your normal auto attacks when you have the charges. When you auto attack, it's going to be turned into hydro damage, and it's going to do different types of damage. Now, for now, this is pretty simple. The main thing about her elemental skill is the last charge. It's how you consume the last charge. As I said before, there are 2 ways on how you can consume the charges. Your auto attacks or your skill. If you consume the last charge, as you guys can see here, now the next attack is going to consume the first stack. This is the first she auto attacked, and then she auto attacks again. Now the next attack is the one that's going to decide which stance you're going to go to. If your third stack is consumed by an auto attack, in that case you're going to go to the sword stance. This stance is going to give you a duration, and in that duration all of your auto attacks are going to be turned to hydro damage, and they're going to have different multipliers and stuff like that, and they're going to count as elemental skill damage. Now if you use your elemental skill to consume the third stack, in that case it's going to create a ring around you that's going to apply hydro, and your auto attacks are going to go back to being physical. This ring is not going to do any damage or anything like that. It's just going to be applying hydro to enemies. So yeah, as you guys can see here, this is the first stance. She uses her skill. Now she auto attacks 2 times, and the third stack she consumes it with an auto attack too. So now she's in the sword stance. That's going to turn all of her auto attacks to hydro. Now this is here the second stance. It's called the whirling steps. She uses her elemental skill, consumes the 2 stacks, and then uses her elemental skill to consume the last stack. In that case, in here she's going to gain a hydro ring that's going to be applying hydro to enemies. So as you guys can see here, this is it. It's going to be following you and applying hydro to enemies. It's called the whirling step stance. Also, as I explained before, guys, the stacks above your head are going to indicate on which stack you're on. So if you have 1, that means your next hit is going to consume the first stack. The hit that's going to matter on which stance you're going to go to is the hit when you have 3 things. So this, now the hit after that, when it shows 3 things, this is the hit that's going to matter. If you use your skill, you're going to go to the whirling steps and have the hydro ring. If you use your auto attacks, you're going to go to the sword stance, and you're going to turn your auto attacks to hydro. And depending on what you want and stuff like that, we're going to discuss this in her building guide. You're going to decide on which stance you'd want to go for. So this is a quick diagram I made to explain her skill better. The text on the line is what you need to pass into the next step. So obviously use your elemental skill. Now to pass to the next step, you're going to need to auto attack or use your elemental skill again. Her elemental skill is Deluxe elemental skill, you can say. I know a lot of people might get confused on how can I use my elemental skill again if I already used it. No, when you press your elemental skill before you consume the 3 stacks, you can press your elemental skill again and again. It's gonna be just doing a attack. The elemental skill button is gonna change. Now from the next step, it's also the same thing. To pass into the next step, you're gonna have to use your auto attack or your skill again. But now finally, to pass into the next step, you have 2 choices. If you press your auto attacks, you're gonna go to the sword stance, in which it's gonna turn your auto attacks to hydro damage, or you can press your elemental skill and go into the whirling steps, and that's going to create a ring around you that's going to apply hydro. So yeah, I hope I made it as simple as possible and everyone understood. So now for our elemental burst, it's much more simple. It just basically does damage, that's it. You're gonna press it, it's gonna do like some initial damage, and then something is just gonna explode later. So yeah, as you guys can see here, boom, it's gonna do like some initial damage and apply wet to enemies, and then you're gonna wait and something's gonna explode again, do some extra damage, and that's it, it's done. Her elemental burst is much more simple. Now moving on to our passives, I'm gonna explain them very quick. Alright, so starting off with the first passive, it's a little long, but basically when you have only like Dendros and Hydros on your team, when you consume like your last stack, it's gonna give 100 elemental mastery to all of your party members, which is pretty good. That's only when they're hit by Dendro attacks. And then when you do a bloom reaction, it's gonna turn like the normal bloom cores, it's gonna turn them to like some special cores. These cores are gonna like explode faster and they're gonna deal more damage. But unlike on normal cores, on these cores you cannot trigger like the Hyper Bloom or the Bursion. I mean, to get them in the first place, you're gonna have to have only like Hydros and Dendros on your team. So you can't even really trigger like Hyper Bloom or Bursion in the first place, but yeah, you cannot. Even if you applied Pyro, you cannot. And their damage is just gonna consider as like normal Bloom damage. Keep in mind, to trigger all of the cores and trigger this passive in the first place, you're gonna have to have only Dendros and Hydros on your team. And at least like one Dendro. You cannot have like full Hydro. So yeah, this is the first passive in a nutshell. The second passive is that for each 1000 points of HP above 30k, the special bloom cores you created damage is gonna be increased by 9%. For each 1000 HP above 30k, the maximum is gonna be around 400%. You're probably not gonna reach that. You're gonna need like what, 80k HP to reach 400%. But even if you have like 50k, 55k HP on Nilou, you're probably still gonna get a decent damage increase. Also, this passive can only be triggered if you only have like Hydros and Dendros on your team, because it's only gonna increase the special cores damage. And these special cores, you can only get them if you have only Dendros and Hydros on your team. So if you have another element on your team, you cannot have her passives, like at all. All of the passives are gonna be just useless. But yeah, I think we're done. Hopefully you guys understand how she works. This video is focused more on like you understanding how she works. It's not really a guide or anything like that. I just explained her talents so you understand like what's going on with Nilou. But yeah, hopefully in the future I'm gonna do like a full guide for Nilou, so make sure to subscribe for that. And yeah, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and see y'all in the next video. Peace.